5 versus 5? What kind of sicko is running this rumble? Hey, is there a doctor on hand? Ask it for my opponents. Wait, hold up. Are we getting paid for this?
What is up guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to play Sett. He's a super fun bruiser to play in the top lane, and we will be using a build that makes him very strong in 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2s, basically as a split pusher. We're playing against a ranged matchup, and actually one of the worst ones you can play against as Sett, because he's a champion that lacks mobility. So when you play against champions like Akshan top lane, I like to run Flash and Ghost, because otherwise you would never be able to catch them. We're starting off with the E, that usually is the best choice level 1 on this champion, because if you somehow manage to gap close and you have a minion and a champion on each side, then you can stun and get a very strong level 1 off. For now we're just staying back and avoiding taking too much poke. If we can somehow get a couple CS, we'll walk up and last it, but otherwise we are not risking half our HP par just to get 1 minion. And the passive gives you some sustain, so when you combine this with the Doran shield, you'll be able to heal up a lot of the damage. And then you also have this left and right punch, so you switch between a left and right punch, and the right punch comes out a lot faster. It also gives you bonus range, and it also deals more damage. So that is the high damaging part in your kit. And then we have the Q. When you're using it, you get like a temporary movement speed boost towards the enemy champion, and it also deals bonus damage, and it works as an auto attack reset. Great for farming, and when you're fighting also make sure that you're actually using it as an auto attack reset. So as soon as your right punch came out, then you want to use the Q so you can reset the auto attack timer, so the next auto attack comes out instantly. And your W. So when you take lots of damage, you will store that damage, and that is the gray bar you can see below your HP bar. And when you take enough damage, you'll go into this budget Super Saiyan form, and when you do that, your W is going to deal insane amount of damage, and in the center, if you hit people in the center, it's going to be true damage. You see, we have a Sett, right? That's why I play it really far back at my tower, because your jungler is a lot more likely to gank you if the opponent is pushed in and he sees a very easy opportunity. Sett is very OP at punishing these types of champions, so just let him push in. The thing about ranged champions is the fact that they are very annoying top lane, but if they make 1 or 2 mistakes, it's usually over for them, so you just have to wait for that. You just have to be patient. That came in and we managed to get the kill, so that's awesome. We'll be rushing tier 2 boots, really OP, especially against, you know, 80 carries, because of that armor you're getting and that anti-AD damage. Not quite sure what's happening with the Caitlyn, but all that matters is that we got the kill, so we can start, you know, actually laning now. That is actually used a lot as a blind pick, because he can do well. Like if you're playing in a very bad matchup, you can always go full tank. But basically how you want to engage is that you always want to like try to stun with the E, and in order to do that you have to make sure there's a target on each side. You stun them, you get your normal auto attacks off, so 2 auto attacks, and then you use the Q to reset the auto attack timer as soon as the second auto attack came out. And then W, use that at the end, you know, when your grid bar is fully stacked. And always try to hit at the center, because that's where the true damage part of your ultimate is at. If you don't do that, you're going to lose out on a lot of damage. And usually what happens is that if you mess up your W, then people will re-engage, because then you lose most of your damage. So still be doing the same thing. He's still a ranged AD carry, and we're still in the early game, so he can still punish us for mistakes, so we just have to stay back and chill. And then only using the W to last hit with when it's absolutely necessary. For example, when I want to get the cannon minion. You'll see the Echo just going to try to waste some of his time. And he is re-engaging. Absolutely nothing they can do though. We did take a bunch of damage, but with the passive and the drawn shield, it really does not matter. Now we got that massive ultimate up, so it is a suppression ability where you target one close champion, knock them up in the air and then down, and then you can also hit close targets with lots of AoE damage. And the thing, or how the damaging part of this ultimate works, is that when you pick somebody up and knock them into other targets, the other targets will take damage based on the primary target's bonus health. So that's a big difference between picking up an Akshan and knocking it into his team, compared to if you picked up a Cho'Gath with insane amount of bonus health, because that can even end up one-shotting, squishy targets. So if you can, always try to pick up the tanky targets and then knock him into his team. Pay attention to how I'm engaging right here. I always keep in mind on the movement abilities and summoners they have. In this case, Akshan used his C. I actually miscalculated the damage with a W. But he's going down. So I waited for a mistake, and he did make that mistake by using his C. Then I waited a little bit for my abilities to come back up. Then I re-engaged, and if you saw how I used that ultimate, because it's a suppression ability, and I waited using it until he was using his movement ability mid-air, because then I could cancel that out and make sure that he could not escape. He should have died to that W, but I miscalculated a little bit, but he still ended up going down. So that's basically how you want to play against these ranged top laners, because if you manage to gap close, then they should lose most of the time. And we are going for a heavy split pushing build, so Blade of the Ruin King is going to be the first item. That also gives us some sustain, so we can heal back up. Lots of ARAM happening in the mid lane. Nothing we can do right now. We just want to chill top side, and we want to keep doing the same thing over and over. Wait for a mistake. If he uses his E aggressively, we can engage, but we also have to be careful because of the enemy jungler. So when we are certain he's not here, then we can fight.
Guiding spirits is easy. I do back-breaking work.
Always try to keep a minion behind, because it's crucial that your E actually CCs the opponent. And with CC I mean the stun part, not just the drag in part. That's what matters the most, because that's how you get to throw out a bunch of auto attacks and really poke down the opponent. Alright, so he managed to escape for now. Doesn't matter though. Oh wow, actually it looked like they buffed the Akshan damage to minions. That ultimate straight out one-shot the cannon minion. But usually you just stay behind minions, or even better behind the tower, because that's going to block it out. Like his ultimate damage. You can see you can still get punished very hard, because Sett, even if you are slightly ahead of the opponent, they can still easily kite you when you don't have your sums or your ultimate up. Like, they can easily make that work, so you still have to be a bit careful until you get a couple items, because that's when you start snowballing.
Killing spree.
And we managed to cancel out another E, so if you can time your CC with his dash. Same thing for other ranged top laners, if you can do that perfectly, then you'll be able to win a lot more, you know, laning phases against these more difficult matchups. The key thing here is to wait for a mistake to happen. It's not only that against, you know, ranged matchups, but also melee ones, but melee ones are a lot easier. Because they have to walk up close to auto attack, and then you can always threaten with an E stun into a full combo with your auto attacks and your W. So try to save your W, you know, you want to use it at the end if possible. You know, when that passive bar is fully stacked and you go into that Super Saiyan, that's when your ultimate deals a ridiculous amount of damage. You can use it early on, but only like if you need to last hit the opponent with it. Like if they're going to die anyways, then just use it immediately, but otherwise try to save it.
Some say I'm an unqualified judge of character. They say it after I beat him.
So now we can basically just run him down because we are pretty far ahead. So just have to wait for him to use his mobility sum and ability, and then we can just go in. Still have to watch out for the enemy jungler though. You can see if you want to push guys, try to stay in the middle of the wave, E all of them, and then hit them with a W. Right now we don't have any real AoE damage, but we will be getting that with the Titanic Hydra, and then you can push out the waves a lot faster. It's going to be a lot more fun to play this champion when you have that item. That's like a basic combo right there. I did not wait with a W, I just used it immediately because I was going for a short trade that I was going to win no matter what. In that case, you can use your W early on if you just want to get a quick trade off, but be careful using it. If you play against champions, you can easily all-in you afterwards. You'll be focusing on split pushing most of the time. That is the goal with this build. When you get Blade of the Ruined King, you really want to go for those 1 versus 1s. Force fights as often as possible, because that item probably gives you the biggest 1 item early game power spike in the game. So you want to be able to abuse that. He's really low HP right here, so we can just go for a dive as long as we fix the wave first. And tower being really annoying. Once again, just wait a little bit with the ultimate. Until you see that, you know, mobility spell coming in, then you can use your ultimate to cancel it out, because it is a suppression ability. So while you're like dragging them, they cannot flash out. They can do it at the end though. So also be a little bit patient with your W at the end. If they have flash or something up, then wait using your W. You can see how fast that passive bar is stacking up when you're taking lots of damage in a short amount of time. You're playing against, you know, champions with lots of burst damage, so like the Echo, and he gets that passive off really fast, then your bar also stacks up way faster, and you might able to get a W up instantly. But you know, if you can hit that W, true damage, like a fully stacked passive, also the carries on the enemy team, they will either be gone completely or they will be out of the fight at least. Because it's true damage on that W, so that's also what makes this champion strong against tanks, because he has some bonus health damage and some maximum health damage as well on his Q. So he's also very often used as a counter pick against tanks. For example, if you meet a Shen top lane, then Sett is a really good counter pick. But it is a champion that you can use as a blind pick. You just have to know how to play the more difficult matchups like the Akshan, because it's definitely possible. Even if you don't get lots of jungle help, you just have to know when and how you can punish these mistakes. We have Blade the Ruin King, and we also have a little bit of wave clear with that component right there, but it's obviously not enough. We're going to build into the Stride Breaker, because that also gives us another gap closing item, so that just makes it harder for the opponent to escape once you catch them out. The enemy team suddenly getting very fed, so I'm just gonna look for a flanking opportunity. When you come in and you have that ultimate up, if possible try to look for a flank. You don't always have to use your ultimate, only do it if it's necessary. If you can kill the opponents without your ultimate, then you don't have to use it. I just kept my ultimate right here. I could probably use it, but you don't always have to do that, because then you can use it for another fight, you know, instead of having it go on cooldown when it didn't have to. But that's typically how you want to start off the team fights on this champion. You saw the flanking route I went for. That's like perfect, because then you can pick them up with the ultimate and then knock them into your team. And since it is suppression, they cannot flash out. They can only do that at the very end, like when the animation is over. Really unlucky, he was allowed to get out. I'm not sure how he got all that bonus moon speed, that was a bit insane. I actually think he got like that bonus moon speed because of his passive towards one of my allies in the mid lane. Otherwise he would have been gone. It's not too bad though, because we are still really far ahead, so he doesn't really get anything from this. He lost the sums. We just do the same thing, just on a split pushing adventure. When you don't have CP, you can't really help out the teammates instantly, so you just split push, and then if you want to team fight, you try to move before a fight happens. You have to become good at predicting that kind of stuff. We can just keep following here and hopefully turn that into a Drake. We don't have the ultimate up, so we can't really do it as much as we otherwise could with that ultimate. But at least most of the opponents are out of the fight, and we also got the Akshan. You can see when it turned yellow, if you use that W right there, that's a ridiculous amount of true damage. Given that you of course hit people in the center, because that's the only part that actually deals the true damage. So if you mess that up in a fight, it's going to be very easy to burst you down afterwards. Your W and the ultimate is the main ability that people will be watching out or looking out for in a fight. So you also have to expect that, and you know, always keep in mind the movement abilities and stuff they can use to dodge these two key abilities. We can back off and get the mythic item. If you're getting Blade the Ruin King, always get that first, because it's such a big spike. That's why you get this before your mythic item. And now we can get the Stride Breaker. And now it's going to be really hard for anyone to escape. We also get a little bit of AoE damage that can help with the wave clear. But because of the cooldown being decently high, if you think a fight is about to start, then don't use that active on the wave. Keep it, because it can make a big difference in team fights and also just 1 versus 1s. because that active is insanely useful to make sure that you can actually stick to the targets. In this case, we also have the Ghost instead of something like Ignite or TP. So it should not be a problem even when you don't have the Stride Breaker active up, but in other cases then it's definitely super important that you keep it for a fight. They are really overcommitting for the Zac. And the ADC must be really tilted as well, being a 0-9. But you see, popping that Ghost in a fight on an AD carry, like, it's going to be very difficult to escape. Usually they just have, you know, a short dash and a flash up. But when you're coming in with a bonus movement speed from your Q, the flash and the Ghost, and then you also have a Stride Breaker active on top of that, you can see it being very difficult to escape in any way. Now that we have some of the core items, the next item is going to be the Titanic Hydra. And the reason you're getting that, of course, being another item that makes you tankier. You get that AoE damage, which helps with the wave clear, but also just your 1 versus 1 team fighting and stuff a lot better. But the flanking position, if you can do that, then go for it. And of course, when you can do that, you go for the main target on the team. But if there's only a tank that you can catch, then just go for the tank. The best case scenario is that if the tank is face checking, then you ult the tank and knock him into his own team, because your ultimate deals bonus damage based on their bonus health. If the player is tanky enough, it can even one-shot the enemy carries with just one of your ultimates, with the AoE damage alone. Alright, I mean, he escaped, but we got the Baron, that's what matters. So basically the fun part begins the moment you already have, you know, Blade of the Ruin King finished, but it's even more fun to play him once you get the Titanic Hydra. Because then you deal a ton of damage with the AoE from your auto attack, so you can wave clear insanely fast and just split pushing way better. And on top of that, the reason you build a lot of HP on this champion is because your grid bar, you can stack up a lot more with that grid bar if you have more HP. Because he can like store half of his maximum health. So when you're getting more maximum health, then you can store even more of that damage taken. So in the end, that will going to increase the true damage on your W. But this is not a fully W true damage focus build. This is actually a good solo queue build, you know, good for climbing. The other build is more a fun build where you just stack a bunch of HP without getting any resistances, because you want to take as much damage as possible so your grip bar stacks up a lot faster, and then you just one-shot people with a W. But against good opponents, it's going to be difficult to pull off because they'll be a lot better at predicting your W. The thing that one-shot build is that if you mess up your W, you have no damage left. But with this build, a lot of your damage is also in your auto attacks. Even if you don't have your W up, you still shred people with auto attacks. I tried to keep the Akali out of the fight with the ultimate, but he still got in somehow. It's a bit unfortunate, but you saw that damage it dealt on the Aphelios. That are almost a full one-shot. But that is basically what you can do. Even with this build, like you can still one-shot people with that W. So if you can tag the opponent with that W, and it's a carry, like the Aphelios, it's game over. They'll be out of the fight. And this Akali is not escaping, so we can just keep pushing towards the mid side. We have a little bit of AoE damage, not a little bit, but a lot more than what we had previously. But it will get even better as soon as we finish the item and upgrade it to the Titanic Hydra. Alright, we got the mid side. The base is open now. So when we win another fight, then we can end it. We can just give the rip-offs to the Caitlyn. Usually I like to take it, but when the AD carry is doing well, then you might as well just give it to them, because they can abuse it a lot better than you can. That ultimate actually gives you a very easy way of, you know, accessing the fights, getting into the fights. Because it's just point and click. Just have to, you know, flash ghost straight into the AD carry, pick them up, knock them into your team, and they will be dead. Even if they have the flash up, because they are not escaping that. Because after your ultimate, you also have that E. And even if you don't stun, it will still slow them. Your ultimate also slows, but it's like a super short slow. So it's not always reliable, but it definitely also helps making it harder for the opponent to escape after that ultimate went through. And at this point you basically just auto-attack people to death when you are this fed. Even if you weren't this fed though, and you have these items, and you are fighting an AD carry, same thing will happen. Because this champion does have an insane amount of damage in his kit, while also being very tanky and hard to burst down. But that was how to play Sett. Really hope this was helpful. As always, thanks for watching, and see y'all next time.